So why is this red dot sight special? Well, this little guy was designed from the ground up to withstand the harshest environments and abuse. I started this project because I was frustrated with the current industry offerings. Felt like every duty grade red dot sight or holographic sight out there had some concessions or compromises that the end user had to make. Take an aim point, for example, any aim point. Your aim point is a fantastic optic. It's a durable duty grade red dot, has a 2 MOA red dot sight. It's a very fine aiming point. Unfortunately, that's the only real reticle that you have that you can use. The upside is that obviously it's LED powered, and so you have a super long battery life. The downside is that that dot sometimes is hard to pick up, especially in low light, and especially when you're under stress. If you want something that has a larger reticle, something that you can pick up a little faster within that target window, chances are you're going to go with a holographic sight, usually an EOTech or a Vortex Huey. Those have great large reticles, very easy to pick up within that window. The downside is the battery life on those optics is abysmal, usually around 1,200 hours of continuous runtime as compared to the Aimpoint's 50,000 hour continuous runtime. So that's the age-old conundrum that purchasers had to face. You get an Aimpoint for the excellent battery life, set and forget design. You don't have to play with anything in the middle of the night. You just grab it and go. The downside, obviously, is a smaller reticle, so it's harder to pick up, maybe a little slower on target. If you want a faster to pick up reticle, right, easier thing to work with, especially if you're stressed and using your rifle in the middle of the night, you get something like an EOTech holographic weapon sight. The downside, obviously, being the abysmal battery life of about 1,200 hours, and so chances are you have to manually cycle the optic, turn it on, and then get it into action. So simply put, why not just combine both of those ideas, have an optic with excellent reticle options, both a 2 MOA, finite aiming point, but also a larger EOTech inspired reticle that the end user can, swap on the fly, but also be LED powered like the Aimpoint, so you get that extended battery life. And because we see a stagnation of innovation in this field, why not extend some of the durability and reliability aspects of this optic design with superior materials and design choices? So we started with a clean sheet design. Input came from a number of team members. This includes my brother, who's a mechanical engineer at General Motors, and our chief design officer, who's also a mechanical engineer and former Green Beret. We started with a basic closed emitter design. Some of the more intro optics out there have an open emitter, and the open emitter obviously is open to dirt, debris, snow, etc. That can get in front of the emitter and obviously occlude your sight picture. It's a no-go for us. We wanted something that was sealed from the elements. Now, LED technology gives us excellent battery life, very good night vision performance, and some reticle freedoms that otherwise don't exist with the holographic weapon sights. Now, the reticles that we decided to use in the LP-1 include a 2 MOA standard Aimpoint dot, an EOTech inspired reticle, which is a 65 MOA ring plus the 2 MOA dot, and my personal favorite reticle for niche applications, just the standard 65 MOA ring. I call this the CQ bracket, and it's used mainly for shotgun use. If you have a traditional 12 gauge shotgun loaded with buckshot, you can very easily bracket a moving target with just the donut without losing whatever's going on inside of that bracket with traditional dot that's covering it up, and so makes it a little more intuitive for my lizard brain to use under stress. And with the reticles all coming from the same emitter, you don't have to re-zero the optic whenever you swap reticles. Once it's on, it's on. Now, before we get into materials, we should get into design. The first thing that we wanted was a larger window. We wanted to be able to see a lot of what was going on with the target area in front of the carbine. And so creating a larger window, one that was even larger than the EOTech window and most of your Holosuns out there, allowed us to bring in that much more of the target space. One of the benefits of having a larger parallax-free red dot is that as you work around cover, you may not need to have the most perfect of cheek welds, but you'll still be able to pick up the red dot sight and obviously get to work. The EOTech holographic weapon sight has been doing that for a number of years now. The EOTech is actually one of my favorite optics. I freaking love this thing, and I was inspired by EOTech's design drawing up the LP-1. The EOTech, for those who don't know, is majority manufactured of Ultim glass-filled nylon. This is a type of polymer that comprises the housing, and it's wrapped in a 6000 series aluminum extruded hood. This is 6061 aluminum. It's pretty durable aluminum. It works in a lot of firearm applications, and obviously the EOTech is a durable unit. Now, the EOTech is a cool looking optic, but we knew that these 90-degree angles here weren't going to fly. Unfortunately, these corners are stress prone, and a little bit of finite element analysis will show you that rounding the top of the housing is probably the most efficient way to equally distribute the force along the optic body. So that's what we did with the LP-1. All things equal, if we decided to borrow the exact materials of the EOTech with our LP-1's design, we would still have a more durable optic. But obviously we didn't stop there. Now the housing of the LP-1 is made of aluminum. Most of your duty grade optics are actually manufactured out of 6000 series aluminum, the same stuff that comprises the hood of the EOTech. It's a great aluminum, it's strong enough for most applications, it's also very affordable and very easy on tooling. But an aluminum that's stronger than 6000 series, 7000 series. That's what we decided to use for the housing of the LP-1. This is the same stuff that your AR-15's upper and lower receivers are made of. 7075 has a substantially higher compression yield and tensile strength than 6061. So it takes a lot more force to push 7000 series aluminum into the plastic zone where it begins to yield and permanently deform as compared to 6061. I want to be abundantly clear, this is a departure from the industry norm. It's also a lot more expensive and harder on tooling. So we decided to craft the optic body out of 7000 series and test the hell out of that alone. No reinforcements, no hoods, nothing of the sort. All of our destructive testing was done on the LP-1's bare 7075 housing. After it passed all that destructive testing, we then added a further redundancy of a 6061 hood. Now, it may sound a little counterintuitive to you. I just finished dogging on 6061 the whole time. Well, because it has a plastic zone that comes on earlier, right? Obviously, 6061 is a little weaker. It can bend and absorb a lot more kinetic energy before translating all of that force to the optic's stout body. It's almost like the crumple zone of your car, right? The more impact forces and kinetic energy is absorbed by the sides of your car, the less the operator feels. So we designed this hood to be sacrificial. There are 3 fasteners on each side. You can bend it, twist it, beat the heck out of it, and ultimately it's going to absorb most of that shock, and it's going to buy the operator a few more newtons of impact resistance before translating any of that force to the optics housing. So I want to be abundantly clear, although we're using a similar hood as compared to the EOTech, we're not implementing it to strengthen the optic. We're using it to absorb some of the impact forces because the optics housing itself is stronger where the EOTech is weaker. So as I've hopefully alluded to, the LP-1 is an extremely durable optic, both from a design parameter as well as a material selections perspective. Now, durability aside, let's talk about some of the other features of the LP-1. We know it's an LED-based optic. We know that it has multiple reticles, very long battery life. How about optic height? This currently sits at a lower 1/3. That's a pretty standard optic height for most of your AR guys out there. And obviously you can tack on different risers and stuff if you're running nods. I think a 193 is pretty comfortable for most guys, and those are totally compatible with this LP-1. The mount used is a quick detach mount that allows you to return to 0. You can also tighten or loosen the mount depending on the spec of your 1913 rail. And windage and elevation adjustments are super easy. You can use the rim of a casing or a flathead screwdriver, and each click corresponds to 0.5 MOA. We have multiple brightness levels to choose from, including 2 dedicated night vision settings, and I'm proud to say that it's very much so daylight bright. And the cherry on top is that we didn't utilize any gimmicky features to help sell the LP-1. There's no shake awake or solar technology in here. And as a quick aside, some of the intro optic manufacturers will utilize some of those technologies to, falsely extend the battery life of the optic. Shake awake, for those who don't know, is basically you turn on your optic. After a set number of hours, it auto shuts off to conserve battery life. Then you pick up your weapon and then it automatically turns on because it senses the motion. We tried putting some of that tech in our LP-1, and what would happen is that, you turn on your optic, after a few hours it would auto shut off to conserve battery, but you go to pick it up and it wouldn't turn back on. You'd have to manually cycle the optic, which kind of defeats the purpose. It's basically a NeoTech at that point. The other thing is obviously the solar fail-safes that we see where guys say that, their optic is being powered by the sun or something. Listen, that's cool and all. At the end of the day, the solar panel is glass. It will eventually break under repeated impact, creating an incursion point for water if you decide to do any submersions with that optic. So again, no complexities here, man. There is a beauty and simplicity. 30,000 hours on the larger reticle, 50,000 on just a 2 MOA. Just turn it on, leave it on. Change the battery out in 3 years. Done. Let's talk about glass clarity. The LP-1 has excellent glass clarity. When it comes to most of your standard quality LED red dots, you're going to have manufacturers that apply a set of anti-reflection coatings on the objective lens. Those are, important for a number of reasons. When you aim an LED towards a pane of glass, light is going to refract through the lens, but also some of the light is going to bounce back towards the shooter's perspective and create the LED red dot that you see superimposing your target. The more saturation on the objective lens, the less light output is required to achieve the same brightness level as perceived by the shooter, thus extending your battery life. The downside, obviously, is that it creates more tint or hazing to the glass. The LP-1 strikes a very happy and excellent medium between the two of those. We conserve fantastic battery life, but the glass clarity is some of the best in the industry. Yes, there's going to be a very slight, and I mean extremely slight, tint to the objective lens that if you look hard enough, you may pick up, but it is certainly not as bad as our duty-grade competitors. Now, with all the materials and features, you're probably asking yourself, this LP-1 has to be a dense mailbox of an optic. It's actually not. It's only about half an ounce heavier than the EOTech EXPS30. That's damn near sorcery, especially considering the 7000 series aluminum that we're using to keep this housing nice and stout. So to recap, we have an optic with awesome features, excellent battery life, superior durability and reliability, and obviously relatively lightweight. What about pricing? Proud to announce that the lead and steel Promethean LP-1 is going to come to market at $275 for an introductory price promo. I want to be abundantly clear. We are intentionally keeping our margins super thin as compared to our, in my opinion, super pricey and inferior competition, mainly because we want to establish notoriety. Lead and steel is not new to the firearm space, but we are a relative newcomer to optics manufacturing, and so we need to establish our presence in the industry first. So for the first few months of sales that we're going to have for the LP-1, including back orders if you missed the drop, $275 will get you an LP-1. Now, one more thing that I need to be forthright about, sourcing. As we discussed, our LEDs and electronics come from Tokyo. Our housings are manufactured, mainly machined, in Hong Kong. Final assembly is done in Plain City or Columbus, Ohio. Not perfectly content with this arrangement. We plan to manufacture the LP-1 stateside. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of liquidity to do that. It's another reason why we're keeping pricing so aggressive, because we'd rather push the volume. So if you're picking up an LP-1 at $275, thank you for being an early adopter. Thank you for helping my business grow and scale, and hopefully to invest the money in domestic manufacturing and enjoy the introductory pricing on the LP-1. So that wraps it up, guys. That is the lead and steel Promethean LP-1, an excellent red dot sign for practically any shooter, but most especially someone looking for a no-frills duty-grade red dot. If you want to learn more about the LP-1, head over to our website and download our free white paper. It's in PDF format. We're also going to be releasing some of our destructive testing footage and thermal drift footage. If you want to see what this LP-1 has gone through, stay tuned for that. I'm talking temperature shifts from 50 degrees below zero to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and only experiencing about 1.5 MOA of a thermal drift. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to support Lead and Steel, please head over to our website. We would be humbled to have your business. Thanks and take care. What's up, Pip? Say hi, bub.